In the collective journey of healing and awakening, we often speak about the divine masculine, not just as a gendered concept, but as an energetic force within all of us. This energy represents structure, stability, protection, logic, action, and purpose. It is the sacred counterpart to the divine feminine, and together they create balance. But beneath the surface strength of the divine masculine lies a hidden truth, a fear that often goes unspoken, suppressed, or misunderstood. A fear so deeply ingrained that it shapes how the masculine shows up in relationships, society, and even within himself. What is this fear? Is it the fear of failure? The fear of being vulnerable? The fear of losing control? Or perhaps the fear of not being enough? Today, we're going to peel back the layers, to explore what truly lies at the core of the divine masculine's greatest fear. Because only by facing it can the masculine rise into his highest, most authentic expression. The divine masculine's greatest fear, losing control or surrendering. At the heart of the divine masculine energy lies the drive to protect, to lead, to take action, and to create order out of chaos. This energy thrives on direction, clarity, purpose, and strength. But with this power comes an often unspoken fear, the fear of losing control or the fear of surrendering. Why is control so important to the divine masculine? Control represents safety. It's the ability to manage circumstances, provide stability, and maintain order. For the divine masculine, control often feels like a sacred duty, to hold it all together, to protect loved ones, and to prevent chaos from creeping in. When the masculine feels out of control, whether in relationships, emotions, or life circumstances, it triggers deep discomfort. Why? Because surrender is often mistakenly associated with weakness, failure, or losing power, the fear of surrender. Surrender asks the masculine to trust, to lean into the unknown, to release the constant grip of logic, and to allow the flow of intuition, emotion, and divine timing. But surrender can feel threatening. It means letting go of the armor, the plans, and the rigid structures that have long provided a sense of identity and security. Beneath this resistance is a fear of being vulnerable, of being hurt, of losing the very sense of self the masculine was taught to build upon. The deeper truth. Ironically, the very thing the divine masculine fears, surrender, is what leads to its highest evolution. Surrender doesn't mean weakness, it means trusting the divine, trusting oneself, and learning to co-create rather than control. When the masculine learns to surrender, it doesn't lose its power. It actually becomes more powerful. It transforms into a conscious, embodied force that leads not from fear, but from presence, integrity, and love. The sacred balance. The true mastery of the divine masculine lies in balancing action with trust, direction with openness, strength with vulnerability. Control has its place, but it is through conscious surrender that the masculine steps fully into its divine purpose. Fear of failure, the hidden shadow of the divine masculine. The divine masculine is often seen as the embodiment of strength, protection, leadership, and purpose. It carries the sacred role of building, providing, and creating structure, both in the physical world and within the self. But behind this powerful facade, there exists a hidden shadow that few openly talk about: the deep fear of failure. Why is failure so terrifying for the divine masculine? From a young age, masculine energy is often conditioned to believe that its worth is tied to achievement, success, and proving its value. To be the provider, the protector, the achiever, the one who holds it all together. Failure, then, isn't just about a lost job, a broken relationship, or an unmet goal. To the wounded masculine, failure feels like a collapse of identity. It whispers, "You are not enough. You've let them down. You failed to be what you were supposed to be." This shadow creates pressure to perform, to constantly strive, to never appear weak or uncertain. It drives perfectionism, emotional disconnection, and even aggression, not out of malice, but out of fear. The cost of this fear. When the fear of failure dominates the masculine energy, it leads to burnout, emotional shutdown, isolation, and strained relationships. Vulnerability becomes dangerous. Asking for help feels like defeat, and so the masculine often suffers in silence, behind walls of strength that become cages. The awakening, redefining failure. The spiritual journey of the divine masculine involves a profound awakening, realizing that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the path to mastery. Failure teaches humility. It invites deeper self-reflection. It dismantles false identities built on external validation, and it creates space for authentic, heart-led leadership. When the masculine integrates this shadow, failure no longer defines him. Instead, it becomes a sacred teacher, revealing where control, ego, and fear have blocked growth. From fear to freedom. The healed divine masculine understands that his true worth is not in what he achieves, but in who he is, present, conscious, grounded, and in alignment with his higher truth. He learns that it is safe to fall, to rise again, and to lead not from fear of failing, but from love, wisdom, and purpose. Abandonment versus unworthiness. Which haunts the divine masculine more? Behind the strong exterior of the divine masculine lies a fragile truth, the presence of deep, often unspoken wounds. Two of the most potent and painful are the fear of abandonment and the feeling of unworthiness. Both are powerful. Both shape how the masculine shows up in love, life, and leadership. But which one runs deeper? Which one haunts the divine masculine more? The fear of abandonment, the wound of being left behind. At its core, the fear of abandonment is the terror of being discarded, rejected, or left alone, emotionally, physically, or spiritually. For the divine masculine, whose identity often revolves around being needed, being depended upon, being the provider or protector, the idea of being left behind cuts deeply. It signals failure not just in role, but in purpose. This fear can lead to over-controlling behaviour to prevent loss, emotional distance as a defence, attachment to roles, status, or success for validation, choosing solitude over risking rejection, the wound of unworthiness, the belief of not being enough. If abandonment is the fear of being left by others, unworthiness is the belief that one deserves to be left. It's an internalized voice whispering, "I am not good enough. I don't deserve love. No matter what I do, I'll never be enough." For the masculine, conditioned to prove worth through doing, achieving, and providing, the absence of inner self-worth becomes a relentless chase. No success ever feels enough. No love feels fully safe. This wound leads to perfectionism and overachievement, emotional suppression, avoidance of intimacy out of fear of being truly seen, self-sabotage when things get too good. Which is stronger? The truth is, they are reflections of each other. The fear of abandonment often stems from the core belief of unworthiness. If I am not enough, they will leave. If I fail, I will be rejected. Unworthiness is the root. Abandonment is the symptom. It is the hidden belief. I am not inherently worthy of love, success, or belonging that leads to the panic of being abandoned, rejected, or unseen. The healing path. The divine masculine begins to heal when he realizes that his worth is not earned. It is inherent. It has nothing to do with success, roles, or perfection. When he faces the wound of unworthiness, the fear of abandonment dissolves. When he accepts himself fully, messy, imperfect, whole, he no longer fears being left because he no longer abandons himself. The sacred return. Healing these wounds allows the divine masculine to return to his true essence, grounded, present, and whole. A leader not from fear, but from love. A protector not from obligation, but from inner overflow. A lover not bound by fear, but open, free, and safe within himself. The divine masculine's fear of being seen. Why authenticity feels risky. There is a silent struggle that lives within the divine masculine, one that few ever witness, yet it quietly influences how he shows up in life, love, and purpose. It is the fear of being truly seen, not seen for what he does, not for what he achieves, not for the roles he plays, but for who he truly is beneath the armor. Why does being seen feel so risky? From a young age, the masculine is often conditioned to equate worth with performance. Be strong, don't show weakness, solve the problem, protect, provide, and don't complain. Behind this conditioning is an unspoken rule. If I reveal my true emotions, my fears, or my softness, I might be judged. I might be rejected. I might lose respect. The mask of strength. To avoid this risk, the masculine often wears masks. The provider, the problem solver, the leader, the stoic protector. These masks are not inherently bad. They serve a purpose. But when they become walls, the masculine becomes disconnected from his own heart. Authenticity starts to feel dangerous, vulnerable, even shameful. What's the real fear? Beneath the surface, the real fear is this: if they see my wounds, they won't love me. If they see my doubt, they won't trust me. If I am fully myself, I will be rejected. This fear leads to emotional suppression, isolation, and a deep loneliness, even in the presence of others. The cost of hiding. Hiding from authenticity creates disconnection not only from others, but also from self. Relationships feel shallow or strained. Success feels hollow because it's built on performance, not presence. Life becomes a constant act of maintaining appearances rather than living in truth. The path to freedom, embodied authenticity. The healing of the divine masculine begins when he realizes that being seen is not weakness, it is power. Vulnerability becomes a bridge to deeper connection. Authenticity becomes a magnet for real respect and trust, the kind not based on roles, but on truth. Removing the armor doesn't make him less, it makes him whole. When the masculine embraces his full self, strength and softness, logic and emotion, leadership and surrender, he becomes unstoppable, not because he hides his flaws, but because he leads from authenticity. The true revelation. The greatest freedom for the divine masculine is this realization: I am safe to be seen. I am safe to be me. Not everyone will accept it, and that's okay, because the masculine no longer seeks validation outside of himself. He stands in his truth, sovereign and free.